Hey guys, welcome to another video. I'm Danny Claiborne, Language Arts Tutor. Thank you for tuning in, and today I'm continuing an emphasis on introduction paragraphs. I'm sharing another introduction style that is very formal that I encourage students to use for writing formal essays, personal, expository, or persuasive. And so I'm talking about societal context, which is a very scholarly one that I encourage. And so I'm going to use a PowerPoint version of the guide that I normally share this principle with students in session. And so let's go ahead and immediately get started. All right. Switch over. And there I am. Okay. So societal context is the style that we're using. And once again, it is an introduction paragraph style, all right, that can be used to open the essay. And I like to make sure it's clear the position of the paragraph in the essay. Even though I'm talking about introduction paragraph, I like to explain where it goes in the grand scheme of the essay as a whole. So the persuasive essay includes an introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion paragraph. And so when we say societal context, we're talking about an introduction paragraph. I want to make sure that is crystal clear. Okay. So purposes of an introduction, that's another preliminary I like to do, just to remind students of what I consider to be the main criteria of an introduction. All right, every introduction paragraph, I say, number one, should present the topic as something that's interesting or important, something that the reader should consider, right? Because if they have no reason to consider the topic as something that's either interesting or important, then there's no reason for them to continue reading the rest of the essay, right? So you want to successfully introduce by presenting the overall topic as something that the reader should be thinking about. All right. And then the second thing every introduction paragraph should do is reveal the thesis at the bottom. So you want to lead the reader towards the thesis, which is the main idea that you're going to discuss in the essay. Okay. And so that's it. I say if it does those two things, usually it's the introduction paragraph is done well as it pertains to content. So every introduction should have the thesis at the bottom, but there are different ways to present the topic as something that's interesting or important. So when I say introduction styles, what I'm talking about is one of those ways, okay? And that is what societal context is. Societal context is an introduction style, which means it is a way to present the topic as something that is interesting or important, okay? So what is context? Let's just go ahead and get into what it actually means. Context just means the explanation of why the topic is relevant. Okay, so something's context is its relevance or how it fits into the grand scheme of something. Okay, so you can think of it by simply explaining why something is important or why it's worth considering. Because remember, that's the purpose of an introduction, right? To explain why the topic is worth considering, why it's important. And so that's its context. Okay, so context plainly explains that. Societal just means to the community that we live in. So if you're going to write a societal context, you're simply explaining why your topic is relevant to the world we live in, why it's something the reader should think about. So it plainly does step one of presenting the topic as something that is interesting or important. Okay, context, explaining something's relevance, societal, to our world or community. Okay, so if you're writing a societal context, you're just going to pick your topic and explain why it's relevant. So this is the format of the actual paragraph. Okay, so the paragraph order goes as follows. First is the context, which means the explanation of why the topic is important. Then the transition sentence, and then the thesis. Okay, so the transition sentence connects the context to the thesis. So those are the three pieces, three parts of the paragraph as a whole. So let's look at a sample. I think it always helps to look at it in action. And so the first step to do is to decide on the general topic of the prompt. It should be something very, very simple. So we look at a sample prompt right here. I'm just going to blow it up a little bit. It says, do you have someone that you look up to? Describe your role model. Explain what you know about them and why you like them. Discuss ways in which you try to copy them or what they do. So this is a good personal expository writing assignment, right? So the first thing for me to do is to say to myself, okay, what is the general, simple topic that this prompt or this writing assignment wants me to write about? Because that's what I have to narrow so that I can write a context for it. Okay, so we decided after looking at this writing assignment, you know what they want us to talk about? They want us to talk about role models in general. So we decided, you know what? Role models is a good general topic for this writing assignment. Okay, role models. Well, notice how simple it is. It's one term. So it's not a whole bunch of words, just one term. So what we're going to do is write a context for role models. What does context mean again? It's an explanation of why it's relevant. So why are role models relevant? That's what the context is going to do. So when we write context, that's step 2. Write the actual context. So what we're going to do is explain why role models neutrally are something that's worth considering. Okay, so I'm going to read this paragraph. That's what it does. This paragraph is the context. It says, role models develop and shape the character of the people they inspire. Having a role model can be a tremendous blessing because people need inspiration, and good role models often provide that inspiration. Therefore, every person benefits from learning from someone else who has been successful in life. Some people have benefited greatly because they had a good role model, and some have taken turns for the worse because they had role models that were not good examples of how a person should conduct their lives. As a result, who a person has as a role model is very important. So notice what this paragraph does, or what this part of the paragraph does. Notice it explains why role models are worth considering in general. Okay? It does it neutrally. We have not mentioned any specific role models or hints about a specific role model at all. All we've done is just simply explain why role models are worth thinking about. This is the context. We explain their relevance, okay? So that is the context part, step 1. Now, step 2 is the transition sentence, okay? So, transition sentence, what does it do? It provides a clue of what we're going to reveal in the thesis. So the thesis says one personal role model I have is Michael Jordan. So the thesis reveals our specific choice, right? That way, the transition sentence, which includes one of these here, the transition sentence should reveal a clue of who or what we chose in the thesis. So, mentioning this word sports, we're going to mention this word sports in the transition. However, one role model in the realm of sports has meant a lot to me. When I say that word sports, it gives you a clue of who I chose in the thesis. So I can use the transition word like however. I can use the transition word like therefore. I think the one we used on the example was the word notably. One role model in the realm of sports has meant a lot to me. Okay, typing today. Okay, so mentioning sports is the clue. That's the hint. And so now we're set up to share our thesis statement underneath the transition sentence. Okay? So the thesis is last. That's the last part of the paragraph. And so here it is right here. Therefore, one of my personal role models is Michael Jordan. We had already revealed that earlier. And so now the whole paragraph looks like this. Here is the context here. This is the transition sentence in blue that mentions sports, and then the thesis in red. All right, so let's hear how the whole thing sounds together. Role models develop and shape the character of the people they inspire. Having a role model can be a tremendous blessing because people need inspiration, and good role models often provide that inspiration. Therefore, every person benefits from learning from someone else who has been successful in life. Some people have benefited greatly because they had a good role model, and some have taken turns for the worse because they had role models that were not good examples of how a person should conduct their lives. As a result, who a person has as a role model is very important. Notably, one role model in the realm of sports has meant a lot to me. Therefore, one of my personal role models is Michael Jordan. So notice how we simply or neutrally explain the relevance of role models and then transition towards our own specific choice. And that's what societal context does as a good formal introduction style. Okay? Hopefully that's pretty clear. So just a few keys, things to remember. You want to make sure you use formal language because this is a good formal introduction style, of course. So proper language and academic diction, word choice for this particular introduction, definitely. All right, and you're likely going to use it throughout the whole essay anyway. Also, choose very simple general topics. Okay, choose a very simple. I'll put a very simple general topic, and it should be non-specific. Notice how in this context we do not mention Michael Jordan at all. You don't mention your specific choice until you begin to transition towards the thesis statement. So the transition is where we first begin to become specific, okay? The transition, and then we reveal who we chose in the thesis. But in the actual context part, notice we're remaining general. All right, that's what we mean when we say your context should be neutral. All right, so make sure that you remain neutral in the context until you get to the transition sentence. And then, of course, you want to use transition phrases to adequately guide the reader throughout your paragraph and even your essay when you're in the interior of the essay. This principle applies to the essay as a whole, but definitely to societal context or any introduction paragraph style. Okay? And so that is about it. Let's let me switch back. And there we are. All right. Hopefully that was pretty simple, as I customarily say. I hope it was. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions or commentary. I do encourage practicing this introduction style. It is a very good one for formal essays and a good strategy to know and be very comfortable using. Okay. Like I said again, feel free to let me know if you do have any questions. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.